Okay, I think it's working now. Okay, welcome to live lesson Lady Khadijah radiallahu anha. May God be pleased with her online college. Live lesson A-level maths year 2, pure maths. Today's topic is geometric sequences, carrying on from what we did earlier in the week in the last couple of lessons, and this time just extending it a bit to see if we can fill in some missing gaps in the question and form an equation to get our answer. Okay, if you're working through the Pearson at Excel book, then it's chapter 3, example 9. So let's begin. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, in the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful. So we're looking at a geometric sequence, and the information we're told is that the second term is equal to 4, and the fourth term is equal to 8. And the question is, can you work out the 11th term? So the first thing you want to remember is that the general formula for a geometric sequence is you take the start number, which is a, and then multiply it by the ratio, which is the multiplier between one number and the next. And then that ratio is raised to the power n minus 1. N is whichever number of terms, whichever number term you're looking at. So if it's a second term, then n is going to be 2. So if we use that formula with the first line, then what we can say is that we don't know what a is, so let's just leave a as a. We don't know what the ratio is, so let's just leave the ratio as r. But we do know it's the second term, so n is going to be 2. 2 take away 1 is 1, so it's r to the power 1, which I don't have to write, but I'm just going to write it to make sure you don't get, you know where everything's coming from. So a r to the power 1, and we do know that the answer is equal to 4, so a r to the power 1 is equal to 4. And now I'm just going to rub out that power 1. So a times r is equal to 4. That's one equation. Let's try the same thing with the next bit of information. So starting with ar to the power n minus 1 is our general formula. What do I know this time? Well, I know a is still missing, so I'm just going to have to keep it as a. R is still missing, so it just stays as r. But this time the fourth term, so that means n is 4. 4 take away 1 is 3, so the power 3 will go next to the r. And we know the answer is 8, so equals 8. So don't worry about getting the 11th term just yet. Let's try and figure out from the two equations that we've got so far, what can we do with them? So we've got a times r is equal to 4, a times r to the power 3 is equal to 8. The easiest way to do this now is to take one equation and divide it by the other, because what will happen is that something will cancel out on the left hand side. Anything on the top divided by the same thing on the bottom is going to cancel out. So we can divide both equations by each other. So then let's do the cancelling. A on the top cancels with a on the bottom because the same number divided by itself is just 1. R cubed divided by r. Remember, r is really r to the power 1, so that you take away the powers. So r cubed divided by r to the power 1 would simply be r to the power 2. And that's equal to, I don't need that second equal sign, equal to 8 divided by 4, which is just 2. So I've got r squared is equal to 2, which means r, if I square root both sides, r would be equal to the square root of 2. And with this question, they want us to leave it as a square root in square root form, insert form, so that's fine for now. Okay, brilliant. Now, if you remember what our first equation was, it was AR is equal to 4. We're going to need that now because we've worked out what R is. So let's then substitute that in to AR equals 4 and see what we get. So we've got a is still unknown, but r is equal to root 2, and that's going to be equal to 4. So I've just substituted in r. Okay, now we can solve that by dividing by root 2. So I've got a on its own. A is equal to 4 over root 2. And you can rationalize that, or just type it into a calculator and it'll rationalize it for you. But since I don't have a calculator to hand, I'm just going to rationalize it myself. Times both top and bottom by another root 2. Root 2 times root 2 will just become 2. So on the top I have 4 root 2 divided by on the bottom 2, but the 4 and the 2 I can cancel them off against, I can divide that. So 4 divided by 2 is just 2. So the answer for A is 2 root 2. Okay, that's brilliant because I've got what A is, I've got what R is, so I can get the general formula for this sequence is A R to the power n minus 1 just here. So now I can put the 11th, just before I go into the 11th term, just the general formula would be A is 2 root 2, R is, so A is 2 root 2, times by R, which is root 2, to the power n minus 1. Okay, so that's the general formula for this sequence. A lot of 2's and root 2's, but we can just leave them in for now. Okay, I want to work out the 11th term. So that means my n is 11. So here I can just take the same formula, but just put in 11 here. So 11 take away 1, that makes 10. So really I just need a 10 here. And we want this in as easy to read format as possible. So I've got 2 root 2 times root 2 to the power 10. Root 2 to the power 10, and this is root 2 to the power 1. So root 2 to the power 1 times root 2 to the power 10 would be root 2 to the power 11. So I'd have 2 times root 2 to the power 11. And then remember the 2 itself is made up of root 2 times root 2. Or I could say root 2 squared times the root 2 to the power 11. So then that simplifies to, again, adding the powers, root 2 to the power 13 would be your final answer for the 11th term. Okay, join me again tomorrow for more work on geometric sequences. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Peace be with you, and the peace and blessings.